The integrity of VCE exams have been called into question after sample questions were leaked online and were nearly identical to the final exam. The subjects include business management, specialist maths and legal studies. For more on this story, we are joined by Shadow Education Minister Jess Wilson. Good afternoon to you, Jess.
Afternoon, Duke.
Was there an unfair advantage here?
Well, what we've seen is gross incompetence by the Allen Labor government in what has been the VCAR putting out sample exams that had questions that ended up on the final. Students discovering this, and then some students having advantage going into those exams and the questions being basically exactly the same that were leaked online. Of course, there's going to be a disadvantage to those students that this information.
First off, my first question is, so how does something like this happen?
Well, how on earth does something like this happen? This is the third year in a row that we've seen the VCE exams bungled under this government. Last year we saw mistakes in the maths and the chemistry exams. We saw the wrong exam given to the wrong students, giving those students an advantage. Now this year we've got tens of thousands of students potentially at a disadvantage because the VCAA has put up online sample exams that had the questions that were going to be in the actual exams. The Minister needs to put in place an independent review of this authority to make sure this never happens again. But most importantly, guarantee that no VCE student will be at a disadvantage because of this bungled process.
VCAR says they were made aware of the error and they rectified it by changing some things around there. Do you think that problem was fixed?
Well, I've had a look at what was put up online originally, those sample questions that were discovered by students compared to what was on the actual exams. And it's very, very clear that the questions are basically exactly the same. In some cases, it's just the change of a business name or a person in the question. No other changes to the question. So, of course, we've got a situation where students are going to be at a disadvantage. VCAA and the Minister knew about this problem 2 weeks ago. Yet they've done nothing to make sure that the exams that students are sitting across the state right now are not compromised and no student is put at a disadvantage.
He says he's going to ask hard questions of the head of the VCAA. To the CEO there, do you have faith that that'll be enough?
Well, I think it's too late for hard questions. The Minister put in place a review last year when there was a bungled exam process. He had to be dragged to the table to make sure that that was an independent review. Unfortunately, it was a very narrow review, didn't look at a systemic problem across the VCAA, and now we've got a situation where this year's exams have been compromised. So too late for asking the hard questions. The Minister needs to take responsibility. He needs to make sure that no student is going to be at a disadvantage who's already sat an exam, and we have another 5 exams to be sat this week. We've got global politics being sat in the coming days, and we know that online students are circulating those sample questions. So what is he going to do to make papers? Those exams are fresh and are not the same questions that were on those sample papers.
So this is a weird situation. 5 more exams to go, as you're saying, and they are now compromised. Is that your understanding?
Here is that we've seen those exams, those sample papers put up online, and yet we've got over 10,000 students yet to sit these 5 upcoming exams. The Minister knew about this 2 weeks ago. He needs to make sure that new exams are issued. What are the contingencies in place to make sure that there are backup exams? Unfortunately, the review last year did nothing to address these issues. Thousands of VCE students who have worked incredibly hard to get to this point with their teachers are going to be potentially sitting compromised exams.
Do you have faith in the head of the VCAA?
Well, I think a review needs to take place, a systemic review of the entire agency to make sure that next year and going forward, nothing like this can happen again. Unfortunately, we have had a pattern of behaviour from the VCAA. The Minister has not dealt with it, and it's his responsibility at the end of the day to make sure that when VCE students go in to sit those exams, the integrity of those exams are upheld and no student in Victoria is at a disadvantage because the Allen Labor government cannot manage the VCE exam process.
Certainly sounds like a really big problem. Jess Wilson, thanks very much for your time.